Next, in the same primary treatment, we have other stage, that is removal of oil and gases. Removal of oil and gases. How you will remove oil and grease, especially? Mainly it is used by skimming tanks, by blowing air through a sewage and oil lifted to the surface as a foams and soapy mixture, which is then skimmed off. Skimmed off means how they will remove this oil and grease? Just by blowing with the hot air. What happens? This oils which are converted in the form of a foam, and it can be separated, it will be floated on the water, and thus it can be skimmed off, means it can be removed. It is removed. That is the removal of oil and grease. Sedimentation process is, it involves addition of coagulants, like if you add alum, ferrous salts, these are called as coagulants. When you add this type of coagulants, what happens? It reacts with these impurities and settles in the form of a precipitate, which is called as PPT. And this is called as coagulation. Coagulation means combining with the dust particles, and this is called as sedimentation process. To do this sedimentation process, to settles as a precipitate, we add alum and ferrous salts. So what is the primary treatment? Primary treatment involves screening, split and grit removal, removal of oil and grease, and sedimentation process. Secondary treatment is, what is secondary treatment? Second, after this sewage, after the primary treatment, pass the same water and aerobic biological oxidation. Usually we take it as BOD treatment here. So it involves aerobic biological oxidation of sewage water, which is a secondary treatment. Under this secondary treatment, we have very good treatment process, biological treatment, which is called as activated sludge method, which is very important for 4 marks. They will especially ask, explain the activated sludge method process of biological treatment of sewage water. What is this activated sludge method? This process include extensive aeration. Remember this, it is the aeration, aerobic oxidation of sewage water. The process is enhanced by addition of part of the sludge from the previous oxidation process. So previously, from the primary treatment, what and all the water contains, pass the same sewage water into the activated sludge chambers. You can see here, this is a chamber. See here, this is a chamber. Here it contains bacteria. Pass the wastewater into this activated sludge chambers. This chambers, when it passes here, okay, it is a open chamber. It is an open chamber. Aeration passes very easily. Under aerobic condition, this get aerated and it undergoes oxidation in the presence of bacteria. Mainly contains aerobic bacteria and microorganisms. In the presence of bacteria and microorganisms, that all it get oxidation, and then the biological oxidation and oxidizable impurities in the wastewater, whatever it is present, it gets settles at the bottom of the chamber. Once it settles in the bottom of this chamber, it get activated. These microorganisms present here, it get activated and it undergoes oxidation, and after oxidation, that parts will be settles at the bottom and pure water will be floated on the chamber. This water is collected into the next, which is a sludge method. This is a sludge chamber, usually which is called as sludge chamber. In this sludge chamber, whatever the precipitate or bacteria are present, it gets settles and it is called as sludge and it is removed, and pure water will be collected at the top portion of the funnel in this chamber, and it will be treated water passed into the tertiary treatment. This is called as tertiary treatment. So what is this? This process involves extensive aeration of sewage water, and the process of aerobic enhanced by addition of part of sludge from previous oxidation into the fresh water. So sludge treatment mainly contains, what is sludge chamber mainly contains? It contains aerobic bacteria and other microorganisms. So here it undergoes sedimentation of sewage water mixed with a proper quantity of activated sludge and sent to the aeration tank and agitated for several hours. Several hours means you have to keep it for several hours. The same water. During this, organic matters undergo oxidation. It get oxidized. After this effluent sent into the sedimentation tank where sludge is deposited and the water free from the organic matter which is drawn off. A part of sludge is recycled for the next process. This is what is said. So here first weight was very important in the secondary treatment. Secondary treatment usually we call it as biological treatment. What happens here? The chamber contain, this chamber is usually called as activated sludge chamber. Exactly looks like this activated sludge chamber where it passes under aeration. It get under bacteria, in presence of bacteria and microorganisms. It undergo oxidation, and this aerobic oxidation, under aerobic oxidation, whatever the oxidizable impurities are present, it undergoes oxidation and get sludge. Sludge will be activated and this sludge will be settled in the activated chamber and water will be flowing on the top of portion of the chamber that will be treated to the passed into the tertiary treatment. So in the tertiary treatment what happens? Tertiary treatment what happens here? After the secondary treatment, pass the same water into the next treatment, that is next stage, last stage, treating with chemicals, tertiary treatment, which involves number of chemical reactions ಹೇಳ್ಬೇಕು ತಾನೇ ಇವರು ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟ್ಸ್. when I logged out, students?
Yes, ma'am.
When you are able to see the sewage treatment full completely?
Yes, ma'am. The PPT was shared, but just now I think you left the meeting.
Now, just now?
Yes, ma'am. Just now I think you left the meeting.
No, ma'am. 5 minutes.
What is your last slide? I explained. Last slide, what you saw? Pushpa, unmute your video. You have to tell me, right? Huh? If I logged out, nobody told me. Now I am able to see.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, this was clear up to tertiary treatment.
Yes, ma'am. Tertiary treatment.
Then this is clear. Any clarification you require in this? You want any repetition, students?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
No means you didn't understand, or you want me to repeat, or shall I go to the next topic? Tell me clearly what you want. Speak up.
Next topic, ma'am.
Is that clear? Okay, no? Tertiary treatment. I don't know when I logged out. That is why I'm asking. Fine. I'll go to the next. If I logged out in between, please text me or call me back. I don't know when I'll get back. Okay. So the next is you will get 7 marks question in the sewage treatment and 4 or 6 marks question. Either they will ask, I explain the activated sludge method or secondary treatment for bacterial method for sewage treatment. 2 questions you are expected from this topic. Is this clear? So for IA or for any other topics. So the next is desalination. What is desalination? Desalination is here desalination is removal of salt. Removal of salt from the sea water. That is called as desalination process. So the desalination process is done either by, we have different process for desalination. Under this you have reverse osmosis and electrodialysis method. So what is desalination? We will see the process of removal of dissolved salts. The process of removal of dissolved salts from sea water to the extent that water becomes usable is described as desalination. So removing the salt, removing whatever the dissolved salts are present in the sea water, removing process. So this desalination process, we have different methods for desalination. One is reverse osmosis method or electrodialysis method, ion exchange method. We have different methods. Under this we'll learn one by one what is reverse osmosis method, how electrodialysis process is been done, how ion exchange process is been done for to remove the dissolved salts. First one is reverse osmosis. So what is reverse osmosis? We'll see. What is osmosis? You might have studied about osmosis, osmotic pressure, right? Osmosis process, you have taken the potato and excavate a small portion of potato and you added more salt water, moving from higher concentration to lower concentration without applying external pressure. That is that is called as osmotic flow, correct? From a higher concentration to lower concentration, that is osmosis. Reverse osmosis is same from higher concentration to lower concentration only it will move, but by applying an external pressure, this pressure is called as osmotic pressure. At an atmospheric pressure of 25 to 30 atmospheric pressure, if you apply, the whatever the salt concentration, it contains dissolved salts, here the thick blue color, all these salts will at this pressure it moves into the other to the lower concentration, and this becomes fresh water. It can be used. What you call it, RO water. Nowadays everyone is started using RO water. No, the same RO is nothing but reverse osmosis process water by applying the high pressure. So it is a typical reverse osmosis chamber, contains inlet through which hard water is. Hard water is nothing but it contains more dissolved salts. At this atmospheric pressure, it is passed at this atmospheric pressure at 25 to 30 atmospheric pressure. At 25 to 30 atmospheric pressure, at 25 to 30 atmospheric pressure, a series of tubes of made with a porous material and is lined inside with extremely film cellulose acetate semi-permeable membrane. Only water molecules can pass through the membrane and salt will be retained in the membrane, and the flow of water proportional to the applied pressure, which turn and depend on the characteristics of the film. Concentrated brine and fresh water are withdrawn through their respective outlets. What they'll do is, I'll just draw here. See, like this, tubes will be present. Have you seen the RO chambers? RO chambers like this, two chambers will be present. Correct. So one is to pass the hard water. Once the hard water means which contains the dissolved salt. Pass this to the first chamber. When it is passed into the first chamber, what happens? It contains some cellulose. Cellulose means it contains like a resin or cellulose fibers will be present. It allows only water particles to flow it. If any dissolved salts present in this water, it get absorbed. Once it get absorbed, whatever the salt is present, the next is passed to the next chamber. Here also it contains that brain type of fiber or brain type of resin or filter. It filters all these salt particles, and fresh water is given as a outlet. So it depends on size of the chamber, size of the tubes which are used for desalination for the removal of salt. So this process by applying this will not take place at a normal pressure. This will take place at a high pressure, that is at 25 to 30 atmospheric pressure. This process is called as reverse osmosis process, and the obtained water, whatever the fresh water generated from this process, is called as RO water. RO water, reverse osmosis water. So what are its application? It is used for, it is economical, simple and continuous. The process needs extremely low energy. It has a long life, and membrane is easily can be, whatever the membranes we are using inside the chamber, it can be easily replaceable. And if you look at the disadvantages, it cannot be used for large scale production. It is only a small scale production. You need a size, it cannot be increased. As if more and more size increases, you need membrane in a large scale. So disadvantages, this is one disadvantages, and variation of pressure may results in rupture of the membrane. Yes, if you remove the if you result and if you take out any, if the membrane if the pressure goes away, it can be used. One second. So if the pressure, if there is any variation in the supplying pressure, you can see membrane is breakable. So these are the two disadvantages if you see in the reverse osmosis process. If you look at the electrodialysis, so the reverse osmosis is important. Reverse osmosis, they may ask her what is desalination, explain the following process, the reverse osmosis, and the other one is ion exchange process. Usually they'll ask reverse osmosis for 4 marks or 3 marks question, and ion exchange process for 4 marks or 3 marks question. If together they will ask, it will be 8 marks. If individually they ask, it is for 3 marks or 4 marks. Understood? The next is electrodialysis process. Electrodialysis process is here. This is also removal of salt. Here we have electrodes. We have different electrodes, like one is a cation electrode. See, you can see blue color one. This is one cathodes and anodes. Alternatively, you have to fix. Alternatively, fix this cathode and anode. So you can see here, this is one anode electrode, and here also there is a cathode electrode, right? This is a cathode electrode. Like this, place one negative positive electrode, positive electrode, negative, positive, like this, positive and negative and positive, like this. Alternatively, we have to place the electrodes. What happens is electrodes in the chamber, if you place it, once the water fed into this chambers, what happens easily, like poles get attracted. If it contains hard water, dissolved salts contain plus ions and negative ions, right? So whatever it is attracted, plus cathode, it attracts the negative ions, so that the rest of the water passed into the next chamber, where it is been, the negative ions been be attracted, and the rest gets passed to the next. Like this, after several time passing the water into different chambers containing different types of electrodes, all the dissolved salts are removed. This is with the help of current, or with the help of electricity. The process is called as electrodialysis process. This is also removal of removal of dissolved salts present in the water. The next is softening of water by ion exchange method. What is ion exchange method? Ion exchange method is, it is a process of cation and anion exchange with the help of cation resins and anion resins packed in a separate column. So what is the reaction involved here? Say for example, this is the resin present in the tube. See, we have a tube like this tube, one chamber, and we have another. I'll show you the diagram. See, here we have one cation exchange bed, and we have here anion exchange bed. Correct? One from the inlet will pass the hard water. Here in this bed, here in this chamber, it contains resins, which is called as RH. This is the cation resins. So cation resins present in this chamber. So this cation are in the form of a cation exchange bed. So once this water reaches this cation exchange bed, it contains the resins, cation resins. What happens? It react with all Mg2 plus, like Ca2 plus ions. These are the dissolved salts present in the water. So when it reaches to this resins, it coagulates, it combines with this, and it forms R2Mg2 plus and retains in the chamber itself, and releases only H plus ions. Only present in the water. After this cation exchange, it passes the next chamber. In the next chamber, it contains anion resins. See here once all Mg plus and Ca2 plus dissolved salts are present here, attracted by this bed, the fresh water moves to the next chamber, which is an anion exchange chamber. Here it contains anion exchange bed. Here it contains anion exchange resins, which are anionic, that is OH minus resins are present. So this OH minus ions resins are present in this chamber. Once the water reaches to this chamber, what happens? This anion exchange resin removes all anions present in the water. In the first chamber, removes all the cations. In the next chamber, removes all the anions and liberates the OH minus ions. So from cation chamber, it comes H plus ion. From the anion chamber, it releases OH minus ions. So from both exchanges, H plus and OH minus ions are formed and then will combine to form a water. This is called as ion exchange method. Ion exchange method means exchanging of ions by treating with different ion exchange chamber which contain resins, which contain different ion exchange resins. So what are its advantages? Its advantages are ion exchange operators are, once it is set, easy to operate and control, no need to change again and again, and both acidic and alkaline water can be softened, which is called as softening of water, and at very low hardness also it can be produced, and produced by this method used is the boiler feed water. Recently we studied about boiler feed water, boiler corrosion, right? So after this ion exchange process, whatever the water is generated, soft water, it can be treated as a boiler feed water. Disadvantages is equipment process is very costly. Equipment is very costly because resins are very costly, and what resins are we are using here as a bed, that is very costly. The equipment is costly, and turbid water needs to be filtered. If you are feeding the turbid water, it has to be filtered, then it has to be passed for softening. So this is the three process you have for desalination. So in desalination is a process of removing the dissolved salts present in the wastewater sample. So first one is reverse osmosis method by applying high pressure. The next method is electrodialysis process, and the third method is what? Third method is ion exchange process. So any clarification you require in this? You want any clarification, students? Are you there or not?
Yes, ma'am. There.
You want any clarification? You have any doubt? So you want me
No,
to
ma'am.
repeat any one of the topic?
No, ma'am.
Are you understanding? Fine. In
Yes,
the
ma'am.
in the afternoon class, we'll have a COD numericals, and left out two methods are there. Softening of water or determination of analysis methods are there. Sulfate by gravimetric method and determination of fluoride by Spann's reagent method. After that, we'll do some COD numericals in the afternoon class. Then we'll wind up this class. Okay. Answer your attendance call. 63. 64, 64. I'll call only once